we're just going to jump right into the questions. And our first question today comes from at Spada Fitness. Dom, his first name is eluding me right now. Is it Anthony?
Yes.
Okay, Anthony. We're answering your question first. All right, he asks, how do you guys like to teach people to
I think
work
that's
out?
his name.
Yeah, if your name's like Chester, we're sorry. How do you guys like to teach people to work out with intent and effort? So effort, there's ways to quantify effort, relative intensities, absolute intensities, proximity to failure, things like that. Intent is a word that gets thrown around a lot. It's a very guru-y kind of word that people like to use. I teach my clients to lift with intent. When you guys hear that, how do you even define that? Before we answer the question, we have to define what is intent to you guys when it comes to like resistance training.
I would say, so I'll tell you surface level what it sounds like to me, because honestly, I'm not 100% sure on this definition, but surface level, it sounds like to me internal cueing. But I could probably include like internal and external cueing maybe. It sounds like you're focusing on the kind of like MMC, like the muscle that you're training. Is that how people are using it and defining it?
I think so. I would say so. Jay, Dom,
it's a made up word.
It is, yeah.
For that training application for sure.
Like even when I look at the definition of intent, it's like intention or purpose.
Yeah, I think it's being very focused on what you're doing, like in the mental and physical manner. So that's why I'd probably include external cueing, but it's probably largely internal.
Do you think it's more like you're not messing around in your phone? You're just like, I'm in here. I'm here to train, maybe?
No.
I think it means that, like, if they perform a set, how are you ensuring that they are performing a set with effort and intent to grow and stimulate the muscle?
So training with intent. So basically not being present in what, and very focused in what you're doing. Right. Because I have gotten videos from certain clients and, and I've watched, no. Okay. I'll just say it. Usually from females. Right. And I know, right. I didn't want to drop that, but usually it is where I'm getting a video and I can see they're like looking around in the middle of a set. So like when people are doing that, and it's not even like, oh, I'm going to look at myself real quick and then back at what I'm doing, they're like actually wandering. It's like, okay, you're not really present right now and focused on what you're doing. And then it almost seems like I can see it on their face. I'm like, you're more worried about your face looking stupid right now and you looking like you're trying than actually like trying and being present for what you're doing. Stop, focus, be present.
That's a good one. I usually if I like get through people's training and I'm like, there's no way this was a 0 or a 1 or even a 2. Like I could just tell by reps. Like if their reps aren't falling, you're not training to actually a 1 RIR.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like next time we come around, I'll be like, hey, videotape your 1 RIR set. They'll do it, and then I'll break the news and break the hearts of them, and we'll tell them that's probably a 4 or a 5.
That's a good point, Dom. I never even, because that's a good, that kind of defines intent to me. I think when I think of like mind muscle connection, and also that, if I look at somebody's sheet and they're like, oh, I did all my sets were 12, 12, 12, and 12, and it's an RIR of 2, and I'm like, what? Like that doesn't.
Well, that definitely helps and clears up effort, right? Because we can see that in the RIR and we can see that in their video, but we can't see intent in the video. And sometimes you can kind of see it in training, like if they are clearly not present, but
like
intent is more of an internal,
like an internal thing. But like you could see, like if they have intention during their workout, if they're making notes on their sheet, like, oh, I felt this my last set, they're a bit more in tune with what they're doing. The best is like sometimes I'll see a sheet and like they have like the RIRs already filled out for the week, like 1 1 1 1 1 2 2 2 2 2, and I was like, oh, this is just not going the way I planned.
I think the way that intent is sort of used currently within the fitness community is that your focus just isn't in moving the weight from A to B, right?
Yeah,
that's a good point.
focusing on the mind muscle connection, focusing on using appropriate technique, like using good technique.
Yeah.
But I do think it can be kind of hard to separate out intent and effort, other than kind of some of the stuff that you guys mentioned. But how do you guys teach that? Like, what are the teaching moments with clients other than what we just talked about for teaching intent? Is it all video? Is it all reviewing the data? Is it a conversation about what training should feel like? What is it?
I think one way we can, as a coach, teach that is vocalizing how we do it, and then they can kind of look at how we do it. So I post my training a lot, just so that they can see like how I'm expecting them to train, how I'm expecting them to be focused in their training. I think that's a good way, just leading by example. And then obviously the things we talked about, I think are all really good ways. Like even during prep, like I constantly posted my cardio just so people could see like, hey, I'm doing my cardio with intent and effort. I'm not lackadaisically doing it. Like these are things that I expect from you guys if I'm doing them now.
Yeah, I try to get into, especially as I've gotten older. God, that sounds terrible. But, trying to tap more into that mindset piece, kind of like, if I see a video and it looks like someone's kind of wandering around with their eyes, or it doesn't really look like they're into it as much, I'll ask them some questions like, what was going through your head while you're doing that set? And then sometimes they might give you some nonsense answer that doesn't make a lot of sense. And sometimes they'll be honest, like, listen, I had a rough day at work, blah, blah, blah. So then you can kind of get into what's going on there. But usually I try to tap into like, listen, this is the only thing that you have to do is just get through this set. You're only going to get one shot at this. Well, you're not going to get one shot, but you get one shot at this particular set. If the effort isn't there and the intent isn't there, then you kind of wasted your time a little bit. And especially if you're, a pre-contest, or even in some instances, if you're an off-season competitor, that's where it matters the most. And even if you're, a strength and power athlete or something like that, that's where, that practice will allow you to manifest the best performance on the day of the game. So it's, kind of impress the idea that this is the performance that's leading into your performance.
Yeah.
Very 8 Mile of you right there. You only get one shot.
Yep, that's it. Mom spaghettis.
So the thing with intent, which I definitely want to make sure that people know this is just a made up fucking word. But the thing with intent is, in order for us to have any kind of internal cueing, like physically, we have to set ourselves up to move in a way that activates the musculature optimally, right? And so what I like to do and start with, like in my training under a lot of movements, especially more complex movements, I type in a lot of cueing. Your elbow should move in this direction. Think of pushing this towards this body part, or towards the ground, or towards the wall, or whatever, towards your hip. Supinate your hand, pronate your hand. Yeah. So, do this with your knees, point whatever this way. And then sometimes I'll even like send video of myself moving. Like Dom and I have a shared client. I recorded a video of like, all right, move your hand this way. Just try and contract your upper chest. Notice which direction that your arm naturally moves in and stuff like that. Video helps. So giving people, I think the start there is giving people the correct external cueing and form and technique modifications. And then the internal cueing, kind of comes later, when you know how to contract a certain muscle and you can feel it and, get your pumps and all that stuff. Then as far as effort, I think that, I'm a big proponent of being okay with low efforts, right? Early in training, but the sort of caveat there is that we are overloading over time and training eventually gets hard. So I really don't mind if training is easy or easy for a while, but as long as we're adding reps, we're adding load, things like that, eventually it'll get really hard. And so, and also like you guys said, getting that video, and eventually if we reach a point where I'm like, okay, we've had enough easy training, you're clearly just not about working hard, then hey, you need to work harder. You have more reps left. Yeah.
I think one of my main issues with the intent argument is like the cringe lord hot take that you see from people, where it's like, it's not about intensity, it's not about frequency, it's not about weight on the bar, it's not about sets and reps, it's always about intent. Like, you have to have the intent to grow before everything else. It's like, what the fuck what are you talking about? Like, that is all of our intent when we go into the gym to do that. That is an agreed upon starting point, and I just see people share that all the time. It's like, shut up. Why are you like this?
It's this participation world we live in now.
Intent to grow. Like, oh, big fucking 200 IQ 5-head shit right there. You have to have the intent to grow before you do. Oh
if
God,
your muscle
spare me.
contracted against the load, it moved the load. Your muscle got the stimulation.
Yeah, but what if your mindset wasn't there, bro? What if you didn't have that internal like intent to grow? It starts with the mind. It makes its way down to the muscle.
And so I'm not going to call it, I'm going to call it internal cueing. Like, there is some research to suggest it can be useful. And particularly with maybe single joint movements or small muscles or lighter
Schoenfeld
loads.
did a study, and that's not even a joke. That's not even a joke, because that study actually was from Schoenfeld.
He did.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's definitely some practical use there. And I think that there is something to be said about people who make progress and people who are focused and take things seriously, right? But absolutely not. Yeah, it's not like that's not a...
We would for sure get sued if we made a T-shirt that said Schoenfeld did a study, right? If we tried to like monetize...
maybe if we spelled his name wrong.
What if we asked him? I'm sure we'd be like, hey,
only Schoenfeld in the world.
It's true.
Yeah, that's true. But he's the only one that's done the study.
All
the
of
study. We can make that shirt and be 100% fine. It's because it's true. He did the study.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, we're not falsifying anything.
It's true.